Welcome once again to Shooting Left of Center. As usual, I am the Yankee Marshal. I am joined tonight again by Gun Websites and Never Enough Ammo. I will let them say hello to everyone here.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
I remember you all got to let me know if I start breaking up in here.
Yeah, we'll let you know if you get...
We were working with it before we started. Here's why we're running a couple minutes late. That and because I didn't get the chat stuff sent out until the very last moment. Let's see here. Welcome once again, like I said, to Shooting Left of Center. This is our bi-weekly podcast. We do this every 2 weeks on Thursdays. If anyone has any questions or topics they want us to answer tonight, you can do a super chat. Click on the little dollar symbol down there. That goes to the Vet Puppy Fund. I'm trying to get like a running total of, now that I think we've been doing the pistol project, I think for almost a year now. I think it's a year. How many guns we've given away. I want to get kind of like a list together of how much we gave away to animal and veteran charities. So I'm going to try to work on that here pretty soon. And I'm also going to try to work on doing another live chat every week, maybe for half hour to an hour. That is patrons only, because if I neglect the patrons a lot. One, because I'm lazy, and two, because it's just I'm doing something every day anyway, so it's hard to do something special for the patrons. So I think we'll start setting one day a week aside to just do a patrons only chat. So that'll be a little bit of a change coming up here. Sorry. Actually, I got to the thing before I coughed. That's unusual. I need one of those little dead man switches where I can cough. Starting to feel better, but still. Now, I think I don't know what's worse. Actually, when you feel like you're coming down with a cold, when you've actually got the cold, or when you're getting better and all that crap's breaking up out of your chest and stuff. I don't know which part's the worst part of a cold.
Yeah, because when you're full on cold, you're just out of it and being warm or whatever. And yeah, when you're back aware of what's going on but sore, that sucks.
Yeah, what gets me is that, you know how like when you get the tickle in your throat because your sinuses are clearing and your chest is clearing out, so you can actually feel the congestion in your chest clearing out. That's the part I hate. Let's see here. I don't have a whole lot of topics I want to talk about tonight, but I do want to talk about one topic that's been really big. You know, we talk about the Second Amendment all the time. In fact, a lot of people would say the Second Amendment is why my channel exists and a lot of the other channels exist. I don't like to think of it that way. I like to think of it as the Constitution is the reason my channel exists. And part of that is the First Amendment as well. And Monster Shit said, for the vets, thanks for your service. I think he's saying that to all the vets, not just those of us in here, which the only person in here that's not a veteran is Matt. But I do know, have it on great authority that he does give 70% off on hand jobs to veterans. So he does do his part.
I recently raised it up to 75.
25% off? Wow. So hand jobs for about 25. Yeah. So if you're a
anything
veteran,
I can do for the troops.
Yeah. Anything to do for the troops. He's got soft hands too, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I don't know what to say, ladies and gentlemen, because ladies can't get, well, I guess they can get sort of a hand job. I don't know if that's still called a hand job or not. And we're starting off real nice tonight. Already getting into these chats, always eventually get into sexual innuendo and other weird things. But that's what happens when you just have guys around talking. That's why we need a woman in here every now and then.
Has that ever happened? That's never even happened, has it?
What, a woman in this chat?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think I've ever had a woman in this chat. I think women don't like me. I mean, I don't know why.
Actually, I've got one that is in your area that is interested in meeting up with you. She's a Second Amendment activist. She's recently been thrown into it by a post she did that got amplified. You know how it went viral, and she went to the extent of basically going full time into the Second Amendment advocacy, doing workshops and stuff. So we were doing a live chat and asked her, and she didn't know who you were. And then we said, well, he's in your area and he's a 2A YouTuber. And she's like, oh no, I've heard of that guy. So got somebody to have you contact.
Yeah, tell her to drop me an email if she ever needs help with anything.
You'll really like having her on as a chat. She's a very cool person.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why women don't like me. I've always said I think women are great. They're just not as good at men at anything. I mean, it's not my fault. It's like, well, I have an expression I say all the time when I see someone do something like you ever watch fail videos and girls do something wrong, like girls' greatest fails. I'm like, oh, women, can they do anything right? And my son always calls me out on it. That's sexist. Let's see here. Whoops, that was one I already read. Monster shit said for the vets. Loki Rising says, I picked up a 22 Walther PPK tonight. Oh, that's one of the new Walther 22 PPKs, because first I was thinking he was mean. And remember when there was before the new 22 PPKs, there was that little, was it the TP something, or it was a Walther. It looked like a tiny PPK, but it was 22.
Yeah.
Smaller, you mean? It was smaller than a regular PPK?
Smaller than a
Yeah, it was smaller.
I had one for a little while, and I kicked myself every day for selling that thing. What was that thing called? It wasn't called a PPK. It was called like a TP something or something like that. Or if anybody can remember what that thing was called, let me know. Who said that just now? Was it Super Vad Videos? Just said clicking the bean. I guess I don't know if he's telling us what he's doing, or
I would, but that
I'm making a suggestion. I don't know.
making when you said the 22 PPK, then that's what I was thinking. Is it a smaller, like that 380 Browning, or is it just a?
it's just a regular size. They make
Yeah, the new one's just a standard PPK, just for 22.
Except that being made out of steel, it's got alloy. Instead of having a regular steel frame, it's got like aluminum alloy frames and slide. Let's see here. What I wanted to talk about tonight, as I started to say a minute ago, was I want to talk about the First Amendment tonight. And there's been a lot of talk going around about.
I don't think you should be talking about that.
I shouldn't. No. That's probably should shut up. But I'm getting irritated recently how people don't seem to be able to separate issues, and how they think everything time anybody refuses to promote something, that it's somehow a violation of the person doing the promoting's First Amendment rights. I hate to break it to people, and I know they've heard it before, but the First Amendment does not apply to whether I have to let you come in my chat and say your piece. I don't have to. That's not a violation of your freedom of speech. It's not a violation of your First Amendment. That's my right as a private entity running a private business to not promote you or be associated with you. The First Amendment deals with the government and basically what goes on in the public square. But I do want to, and I'll get your all's opinions here. I do want to point out, though, that I do not think that anyone is entitled to make money off their opinions, which means I think YouTube, anyone, when they want to, if they just want to say tomorrow we're completely defunding gun channels, which they have practically done, that's their right. But since YouTube itself is such a part of the public square, because I believe that the internet is a public property, because I mean, other companies can put things on the internet, but it's kind of like if you have a taxi service, you still have to follow the state laws for the roads that you're using. Even though your taxi service is a private business, you still got to abide by the laws of the county or state where you're on, whose roads you're driving. Same thing I feel about things like Facebook and YouTube and all those. They're private business, but they're driving on our public roads. So they have to follow the laws, meaning if I have an opinion I want to put forward, I should be able to put it forward, and they should not be able to censor my opinion. But they are not obligated to endorse or in any way support my opinion through funding. So they can cut my funding all they want. Anybody that, I don't feel people have a right to make money off their opinion, especially from another person. You have a right to go out and try to make money off your opinion, but everyone has a right to not pay you if they don't want to. But I think it gets muddy when you get into these public entities like YouTube and stuff, because I think that they should not be able to censor what you say, but they should in no way have to promote or sponsor or perpetuate what you say by providing you funding or promoting you in any way. And am I way off on this, or are other people close to my opinion? Or
no, that's exactly right. I mean, these big organizations, they enjoy special privileges under U.S. law. On the basis that they will do exactly what you said, not stifle speech. They will allow free speech on their websites, and they enjoy protections under the law. They are using infrastructure that was put in place and at least partially paid for by tax dollars. They're using they're using a system that was helped to be created by tax dollars. So Yeah, absolutely. But no, they absolutely, they don't have to pay us anything to say what we want to say, but they shouldn't be able to just get rid of us because they don't like what we say, unless we are doing something via video form or via text or whatever that is blatantly breaking a law. Like, we are outright threatening someone. You know, if we are breaking the law in our content, that's one thing, because that's already covered by the law. But if we just go in there and talk about, for instance, you know, look at the stuff that I got strikes for last year. I got a strike that potentially could shut down my channel because I told people what my favorite online gun stores were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
That's over the line.
Yeah. So, but
you know,
yeah,
but certain things are not protected under speech. That's one other thing people don't seem to understand about the First Amendment. Even when it comes to the First Amendment, there are certain things that are not covered. Slander, libel, those things are not covered under the First Amendment. Threats are not covered under the First Amendment. Extortion is not covered under the First Amendment.
Well, I think, to be fair, we have to say those things, it's not that they're not covered under the First Amendment. It's that there are legal consequences. You can make a threat in an open forum, but understand there are going to be consequences. You can slander somebody, but understand under the law, there are consequences to where you can't then go back and retroactively say, but my First Amendment, because that doesn't apply in that.
But that's because the First Amendment does not offer you protection in those cases.
Yes. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that an entity should be able to preemptively go, I think you're going to say something that I don't like based on all your other content, therefore I'm going to censor you. Once it is, you have to actually do the thing first.
Commit the crime. Like if I come on here right now and say, I'm going over to Never Enough Ammo's house and I'm going to beat him to death with a pillowcase full of, you know, apple cores or whatever. If I make that threat to you, then I harm you in some way. That's actually doing something wrong. But they can't just turn my channel off because he looks like the kind of person that would threaten to go over to someone's house with a apple core. Yeah. You have to wait till the crime is actually committed. It's called due process. It's called, you know, actually having the right to do the things you want to do until you do the wrong thing. So it just gets me that so many people seem to be able to not separate those things. They don't seem to be able to understand that organizations like YouTube, I don't think they should be able to circumvent our access to being heard, but they in no way have to put us into promoted videos. They no way have to pay us money for advertising. I don't think they should be able to put advertising on our channel unless they pay us. Unfortunately, they put advertising on our channel without paying us, but I accept that as part of them providing the infrastructure. I'm like, okay, I'm using their platform, so they're making their money. But these people who get all upset because, you know, like PayPal, PayPal doesn't have to support anybody they don't want to. And I firmly agree with their right that they don't have to provide payments for people who buy gun stuff, everything else, because I believe in a private person or private entity's right to choose what they do. Yeah. As long as they're not violating any laws in doing so, like discriminating against somebody for something that they have nothing, that they can't do anything about. Like, we're not letting you buy stuff on here because you're black, or we're not letting Middle Easterners use our products, or we're not, you know, that's different. But if
they're not a public platform. So, I mean, they have, you know, they don't get protection under the law. They didn't make a deal to say, we'll make sure we don't censor speech in exchange for this, and this. You know, PayPal is a payment processing company. That's all they are. That's all they are.
And it's like if you were like would apply the same opinion to a private business. It's like if someone has a private business. Now, I do believe that, no, you shouldn't be able to discriminate against people because they're the wrong color or the wrong religion or the wrong sexuality or any of these things. I think that should not be allowed. But there's also that classical liberal side of me that believes you should be allowed to do it. But if anyone can show they've been harmed by it, then you're liable. I
mean, if you're the only bakery in an entire state, for instance.
Like I said about that cake baker the other night, I was like, I would see it being a bigger deal if he was the only cake baker in the area. If that was like, if we don't get a cake from you, we can't get a cake from anybody. But that wasn't the case. And then after I actually saw the cakes he made, I was like, those are fucking mediocre cakes. I can do a cake that well. You know, so I'm just like, why are people so upset about that cake? I believe anyone has a right to refuse service to anybody, or not just to, you know, if you're smart, you would just say, I'm so booked up that week, I can't do it, you know, and then you wouldn't have any liability. But I'm just, I just think I'm torn between the classical liberal side of myself that says I shouldn't have to do anything for anybody I don't want to, regardless of why I don't want to do it. And then there's a side of me that, I'll say, well, it is a civilized society and we do have to have rules, etc., because, mob mentality tends to get out of hand. And, there's some places I've lived where it would be very easy that if everyone got to choose what they wanted to do, they would not serve blacks or Hispanics and they would never suffer any consequences from it because that's 1 or 2% of their population. And they would never actually suffer any, because most people wouldn't care. So they wouldn't suffer PR problems. And because everybody in their town that still comes there would still come there because they don't care and all that. So I'm thinking, well, then they would have to be liable because then the 1 or 2% of the people live in that town, they would actually be being damaged. So I'm always like, even that would even out eventually, because once people could show they were being damaged, then those people could be held liable. And just knowing that could happen would make most people go, it ain't worth it. So I don't really think we need all these laws and all this other crap to make people do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like what you talked about with the freedom of speech. You can say whatever the hell you want, but the minute you cross a certain line and you have either broken a law or your speech has harmed somebody else, there are consequences, right? So that you don't need to have a lot of these laws, in my opinion. That's just the libertarian in me. You don't need to have these laws because the minute that somebody does actually causes harm, there are consequences for that. But if there are no consequences, if you're a bakery and you're just a baker and you're just an asshole, but there's another baker 3 blocks up and there were no consequences, well, then you know what? Guess what? You got a right to be an asshole, and the person didn't suffer any consequences.
And then everyone has a right to say, hey, this baker's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
And anything honestly about you they want to say, but I just don't see how it's as big an issue as sometimes it's made out to be. But I'm trying to look here. We had some super chats come in. I might want to get the answer here in a minute, but I'll get to them as soon as we finish with this little topic here.
Well, I disagree. Let me throw something out there real quick though. Screen share and just double check. Is this the gun we're talking about before? So it's smaller than a J frame. It's a Walther.
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah, there. I see it now.
Not much bigger than a little NA. Okay.
What's it called?
TPH?
TPH. Yeah, I knew it was a T. Did I say TP? Is what I think I said. Wasn't it a T?
But yeah, so it is a pretty neat little gun. I agree. I think that we have freedom to have a new platform, and we as audience have freedom to watch the stuff that we value wherever we want. So it might be real convenient, and it might be efficient, and it might be easier on YouTube. But if YouTube, I think they're a private thing, and I don't agree with you guys on the whole internet thing. So about who?
But those are laws. I mean, these companies went into an agreement.
Like who owns the internet? I don't think that YouTube being giant makes them anything. That's like saying because Walmart is so big that we don't have a choice on where to buy bananas. It might be a lot easier to buy bananas, and it's a lot cheaper to buy bananas at Walmart, but it's not our only option. So that's all I'm saying. Is I disagree. So if we have freedom, yes, we have freedom to have a new platform like Gunstreamer or GunTube.org or the others that have attempted it. And hopefully those new platforms will develop into the future. They know what live is all about. YouTube is dropping live, right? YouTube is trying to keep the mainstream stuff that makes them money, which is fine, but that's not the trend and that's not what we're interested in. So these new platforms will develop stuff that actually cater to our area of interest, what us and our audience are looking for. And that's how development happens. So I think if they want to be tyrannical, then let them, because their platform's lame. And we're evolving as a society beyond needing a platform to hold our hands on the internet anyway. So the internet, I agree, is just a thing. It's a place. I don't really agree with that analogy of roads, because it's not like roads that need to be maintained and there's only so many roads that can exist because of private property. The internet's kind of, fourth dimensional in that respect. So you can always just add more internet. But in that regards, as we lost AOL, as we lost the browsers even, as we're losing the social media platforms, we'll just as individuals be out there interacting with each other on the new platforms that exist. And
I don't agree with that completely, because when you do that, when you don't offer protections, the whole point of being a democratic republic is that there are protections in place to prevent the majority from being a mob instead of just the majority. And when you allow things like YouTube, who utilize, which I totally disagree, the internet was completely public funded. is paid for completely by government monies. Even when they decide they want to up, like when they decided they were going to provide internet out here, which they haven't done really yet, who paid for it? The taxpayer paid for it. The companies that are going to manage the services did. They're just basically managers. They don't really own.
It's like saying the highways. So it's like saying the highways. Yeah, they were developed originally for defense, and the railroads for defense, and publicly funded and everything. But now you can be entrepreneurial and use the roads in so many ways. And now there's Uber, and you can pick up somebody's McDonald's for them and make a couple of bucks.
And no matter what you do, entrepreneurial, if you're having a delivery company, whatever, you still have to obey the traffic laws. You don't get to say, well, I don't want to obey the laws of this road. Even though
no, I hear you, and we are technically obeying rules. I mean, websites work and chat works. We are obeying rules. As far as like you're saying, like you're not supposed to have like a big yellow bus that has swears written on it because society would frown on that.
What are you, 70?
I'm just trying to use a crazy example of something that could go down the road that would be obnoxious, and people would maybe even pull it over and tell them to get off the road. I mean, that's more like, I think the analogy here is that, we're trying to use roads the same as everybody else is. Or maybe like Google's just a bunch of buses getting in the way, and maybe they're clogging the internet. So it makes it difficult for us as individuals, even walking, to get around on the internet. I guess maybe that's more the analogy I would agree with.
Yeah, because the way I look at it is like there's a reason why.
We're splitting hairs, though. I think I would just say that, for the most part, we agree that, it sucks when they're gonna shun us. I'm just saying, great, like let's go keep moving, because YouTube is great for a while, but it's not gonna last forever.
It ain't gonna last another 10 years, I don't think. But here's the thing, though: when you do it just that way, when there's no protection for the minority, which is why we set up our republic the way we did, so that it didn't become mob rule and everyone with a minority opinion was just overruled every time. When you do it that way on the internet, well, great. It'd be great if when people like Full 30, let's look at Full 30. They're like, well, you know what we'll do? We'll just run off and do our own. But there's not enough of us there were not enough of us, since we are kind of a minority, that are people that are that vocal and that interested in protecting the Second Amendment. We're a minority. There weren't enough of us to draw in any advertisers, to draw in any people who wanted to provide our infrastructure, to draw in anything. So we would just, if we didn't have some sort of protection like the First Amendment on the internet, all the fringes and all the people who have something to say that's important, but because they're not in the 51%, would just disappear. Because we're seeing that now with PayPal. I'll tell people right now, Patreon is not anti-gun. I have worked with them several times to make sure I can continue doing what I'm doing without violating any internet rules. They're not anti-gun at all. But PayPal, who is anti-gun, uses the fact that they're the biggest company by saying, well, if you don't do what we say, we'll provide processing for your competitors, but not for you. We just won't process your stuff. You'll be able, your business model will collapse and you won't be able to do anything. That's another thing that happens with things like YouTube, etc. They'll tell people like, hey, you're an advertiser. You want to advertise on YouTube. I heard you're also going to advertise on Full 30. I'm afraid we just can't take your ads if you're advertising on Full 30. And of course, the person buying advertising is going to be like, well, I can choose to reach 10 people on Full 30 or 100,000 people on YouTube for the same dollar. And they're going to boycott the Full 30. And that's the thing we run into all the time when we try to say, well, we'll just go do our own thing. That's why I think the internet has to be equally available to every person in every platform. If you want to use the system and you want to go across the public lines and you want to go into those public connections, into people's homes and the actual infrastructure that's supported by state and federal taxes, then you got to follow the rules and everyone gets a voice. But I think that makes my position pretty clear.
Yeah. Derpy saying, are you saying that PayPal is a monopoly? Well, at the moment, they're definitely the big hitter. They're not a monopoly, but in effect, they're dominating.
Yeah, and here's the thing: there's not a lot of money in that service. So, like, if let's say I start a business selling shit sandwiches, and then I become the only business in town selling shit sandwiches, That doesn't mean I'm a monopoly just because I'm the only one. It just means that most people don't want to sell shit sandwiches because there's no money in it. So there's a big difference between being a monopoly and just being the only people that are really doing it right now. And they're pretty much just the only people that are really doing it because there's not a lot of money in it. There is in the mass.
Well, okay. So now there's, I don't know how far we want to get into this. Like I said, this was one topic and we're already halfway through the show, but it's something I pay a lot of attention to, especially, just being around for a long time and seeing people come and go, and it gets frustrating. One of the reasons people go is because there's not resources there for us to flourish in, right? And we all experienced what it was like to have basically limitless resources. It was kind of crazy there for a while, and we all saw a lot of growth and stuff, but we were all new and we didn't know how long that would last, and we didn't think about it. And now that's where we're at today. So we've got potential for somebody who's got either the funding or the ability to bring people together to create either a PayPal-like system or a banking thing for the online firearms retailers and stuff like that. There's a couple of efforts that have been kind of fits and starts for competitors to like Kickstarter and Indiegogo is funding platforms for projects that are pro-firearm, because those are both neglected from those platforms, from the crowdfunding project platforms. Patreon, like you say, I don't see it being anti-gun. I see it being anti-individual every once in a while. But if you want to build a better platform and be more fair, quote unquote, please do. It's a capitalist society and it's a free market. Go for it. Make a better mousetrap. But I think we do have potential. Now, if we want to get into Full 30, I don't think that because Full 30 as a business model failed or has not done what we expected it to do, that we can't see a better future. I think that Full 30 tried to emulate YouTube in the respect that they tried to pay creators. They tried to offer video for free. So that wasn't a pay service, like a paid a monthly fee to join it or anything. So they tried to offer something for free for everyone. And that's a big thing. YouTube's a very large entity on this planet, really. It's a huge company. It's got a lot of resources. As far as the internet goes, it's one of the largest things, period. So, they're competing with something that's massive, and they tried to offer the same service, the same end result to users, and the same financial benefit to creators. And I just think that was a business model that was difficult at best, to put it nicely. So when that one, when that one didn't succeed, I don't think that's our only option. So, I've experienced it with your posse doing with 600 people, bringing, being able to make it so I can get to shot and do stuff. So crowdfunding brings hundreds of people together. I mean, just do some simple math. If we each, I don't know how big our channels are on YouTube, but they're large. They're easily tens of thousands of people. And, we start looking at sub numbers like that and thinking of large. And when we think of like views and things, potentially when you're worldwide and you're all over the place, lots and lots of views and stuff. But when we talk about like what you're talking about, people that are effective to what we're trying to do, 2A efforts or outreach or education, we don't need to reach thousands or millions of people. We're not creating content that's appealing and like as entertainment. So when we have hundreds of people, or like let's say 1,000 people, let's say 1,000 people were interested in donating $60 to an effort, incremented out $5 a month. That's $5,000 a month to an effort out there. And think about it. If you had $5,000 to use for any kind of boots on the ground operation or virtual type of situation, that's amazing. So
in that aspect, I think it's good. Like you're saying, like if you've got an actual project and it needs funding, I think that it's great for the smaller platforms. The part where I think
smaller people and affect a lot of creation of content and useful results, but without needing to bring in the kind of scope that they were trying to do with Full 30.
So here's the problem I have, or not the problem, but the opinion I have on that is it's great if, like, say, I'm someone who runs a channel and I'm an activist and I have to fund all these different things I'm doing as an activist. Well, I have 300,000+ subs. Those people don't support my channel. It's the 2,000 people over on Patreon that support my channel. It's just a small portion of my audience. That's all I would need to keep doing everything I'm doing as far as activism and stuff goes. But the bad thing is, if those were the only people I reach, I wouldn't be spreading opinion. I wouldn't be changing minds. I wouldn't be altering the the future, hopefully, by turning someone who would eventually be the next Bloomberg into someone who's like, okay, maybe I see the point and maybe I understand why the rights are so important. So to me, the other side that's totally non-monetary is the most important part to me. I appreciate the 2,000. There's only, like I said, it's just 2,000 people that make my channel popular, make it possible, make me able to go up to the Capitol, make me able to give away guns, make me able to support veterans charities and give a gun to a veteran every month and do stuff like that. It's just those 2,000 people. But the videos I make are partly for them, but mostly so people that are not in that 2,000 person group can maybe have their mind changed about something. Like, you'd be surprised how many people in this day and age still think gun guys are just a bunch of old white guys with beards and overalls sitting around rubbing their shotguns while, you know, doing nothing but talk about how they're going to overthrow the government, when that's not the case. It's just a bunch of us normal guys getting together who have every other interest that any other normal person would have. And I think making that in people, having that upfront and visible every day is very important.
No, you're right, because you're talking, when you say only 2,000, you can compare to the 300,000 that subscribe to your channel or whatever. Exactly. So, but that's still a lot of people. But what you're talking about is that 2,000 compared to what, like a medium video for you will hit 35,000 on the first day. So that reach is greater than the 2,000 that are dedicated to keeping your channel alive. And I would be interested sometime, I guess, I don't know if they'd let us do it on air or not, but to go through and look at the analytics side of your channel, because that 36,000, I highly doubt 36,000 people are sitting down and going, oh, Yankee video happened today. I think instead it's some, you know, tens of thousands of people. And then they're saying at work, hey, look at this. And they're watching it again with somebody over their shoulder. And that's where your videos, you know, the way you do them and the content or whatever, the topics of the video will be the kind of videos where people come say, hey, look at this, watch this guy, or send it in an email to somebody. And, you know, people go, oh, 36,000 videos. There must be 36,000 people on YouTube sitting around waiting for Yankee's little bell to ring and go, oh, great, Yankee made a video. Go over and jump and look. I mean, there's definitely thousands of people that do that. But that's where I'm saying that where we're going into is the world where people they don't care if your video's on YouTube or if it's on Gunstreamer or if it's on guntube.org or wherever, because they saw it in their email or on their friend's phone or whatever. But you're right, to get it out to those people, the platforms that are huge facilitate that.
Yeah, it's the community bulletin board. You know,
but at the same time, when we've been looking at this, Clovertac is out there and he does a Thursday get together where we chat about tech, you know, behind the scenes, how to. And we've looked at some trends. When you go to like Google Trends, it'll show you like how many people are searching for things on the internet, and use that as an indication of how popular or how much interest people have in stuff. And you can look at like fishing or hunting, or we started looking at YouTube channels and then 2A topics. And then we started looking at just Facebook compared to YouTube and compared to Instagram and that kind of thing. And those platforms are huge, but they are dying. They are losing interest. And I think that's because people are getting more savvy. They don't need those platforms anymore to gather. And they're losing, you know, the platforms themselves are confining and they're kind of messy. They're old. So, you know, the new platforms will come along and they won't be necessarily better. They'll just be new. But I think
when those new platforms come along, it's every bit as essential that we've already set the precedent that if you want to be a platform and follow the law, you provide service to everybody.
Well, and I don't know if it needs to be like a threat or if it's just the new platform understands that, like, hey, if we're going into this, that's an issue that we've had in the past. Let's build it in a way that either doesn't make that a bottleneck or something, like we don't try to put filters on or something.
Unfortunately, the people, though, with the most money are the people who want to filter the most because they have the most to lose if everyone knows everything. So we have to have some way to make sure they don't get to filter the things they want to filter. I kind of look at like things like YouTube and stuff. Like those of us that are as old as I am remember the community bulletin board, you know, downtown at your public library or at your bait shop. And there's no way I would have known that Jimmy Jack had a 20 gauge shotgun that I've been looking for sale 2 counties over if I hadn't gone in and saw his little index card on there that says, you know, got this 20 gauge for sale in, you know, far Mason County, you know, and I would never known that. There's no way I would have known that if he hadn't been able to post on that community bulletin board. If he had to just like stick it on a tree somewhere, I would have never seen it. But because that bulletin board was open to everybody, I was able to see something I would never have normally seen. And I might even see something on there that I'm like, hey, a four-wheeler for sale for $800, and I've got $800, and I've always kind of wanted one, but never really thought about it. You know, you might get something new or something you didn't even know you wanted. And that's kind of the way I look at YouTube.
So now you're talking like a real bulletin board, like they named them that on the internet, but we're talking like a piece of cork on the wall with thumbtacks.
Oh yeah, a real board where people could just walk up and write something on a piece of paper and stick it on the board, and no one monitored it. No one, did anything to like, oh, you can't post that on this bulletin board. If someone went up there and posted something obscene, someone else would just take it down. Anyone could post anything. Yeah, so that's how I see the internet. It's still got to maintain that community bulletin board aspect, or else it's only going to come to serve the majority, because serving the majority is what's profitable, and that's what we can't allow to happen.
I agree with that, and it's just like that bulletin board. It takes effort from people who write stuff and put it on the bulletin board, and then it takes effort from people to actually respond and be interactive with it. Otherwise, there'd be no point in posting your for sale item, right? And then it takes other people to at least appreciate that interchange exists, and to either allow it or to appreciate it for what it is. Because like you say, there's other things that can be on there, like, hey, I lost my dog, and everybody figures out, hey, there's coyotes in the area because everybody's losing dogs all of a sudden. No one would know that there's a trend until they saw all the posts going up. So
it's kind of like modern media. No, people didn't realize that in the 70s it was far more dangerous to let your kid roam down the street alone in the 70s than today, because today they hear about every time it happens that some kid gets hurt. Back in the 70s they didn't hear it, so they didn't know that it was more dangerous. So they
the fact that we survived life back then is a miracle.
I don't know. So we beat this topic to death. I think now we've talked about most of the show. So let's go over here and answer some of these chats that came in. Only a few came in, but if anyone out there's got a question you want to ask me, Never Enough Ammo, gun websites, either send it over to shootingleftofcenter@gmail.com. I'll try to get to those. Can't promise anything. Or do a super chat. We'll definitely get up to all those. If we still have super chats at the end of the hour, I'll cover them all, but we're not going to have them still at the end of the hour. We've only got a couple here. So let's see here. I think I picked up the 22 PPK. I did that. Bevo fan 123 Yankee, interested in any threaded barrel 1911s? I have a threaded barrel for a 1911. I just never have put it in a 1911. I have to fit it because it's one of those nuts, not a drop in. It needs to be fit a little bit, and I just haven't had the gumption to do it. But yeah, I'm actually looking at the Wraith, because it's already comes pre-threaded. Suppressor height sights, and I've got a suppressor on layaway, so I'm thinking about getting one of those. Eric White says, just bought a Ruger Bisley revolver. Do you prefer the Bisley model with the lower hammer and different grip, or the regular grip? I like the Bisleys. I like the hammer. I like the grip. The grip seems to fit my hand a little better, but I just bought a Ruger too. Let me see if I can turn my camera on here. I just bought this Ruger, but it's the regular grip Ruger. And I am changing the hammer to the Super Red Hawk hammer, because I hate this narrow hammer. It hurts my finger when I'm thumbing the hammer. And I'm putting a fiber optic front on the front sight. But I just picked up this one. But I do like the Bisleys, my 44 Magnums in a Bisley. Let's see here. Turn my camera.
I like them. I bought one, but I like the look of them, and I bought one. But then as soon as I shot it, I didn't like it, and I brought it back. It was too awkward for me.
They are a little awkward, especially. I have the Bisley in a 44 Magnum, and I don't know what it is about the Bisleys in the 44 Magnum, but it's like they were designed every time you pull the trigger to smash your knuckle with the trigger guard.
Oh, they say you're locked on me. That's because I'm better than that. That's not saying nothing.
Well, y'all were having y'all's little conversation back and forth. I made my opinion on that particular topic known, and so there you go.
Then he fell asleep. Let's see here. Oops, I'm going down into the wrong area here. Crypto Pirate 1776 Yankee. If I had to defend myself against a dog man with a handgun, what would be the best caliber? What's 357 Magnum is the best caliber for defense against dog man.
Dog man. All right. Not a werewolf, a dog man.
Well, they're kind of like werewolves, but they're like werewolves for rednecks.
So they're smaller.
What if it was a Chihuahua dog? Yeah, the little guy comes up.
So they're like more like dog-faced humans.
Well, see, no, it's like a werewolf. They're just like werewolves. They're like half man, half dog. My only thing about those is I like it better when you just limit it to wolf because then you kind of got an idea what it's going to be. There's so many different varieties of dog. What if the man is like half dog, half toy poodle?
Right.
Like, are we supposed to be afraid of that? Or
Now, if I was going to be a werewolf and I could choose, I'd be a were-Doberman. That'd be way cooler than a werewolf.
Well, no, it's
Yeah.
a werewolf. It's either a werewolf or a were-dog. There's variety with were-dog. With werewolf,
he said he would want to be a were-Doberman. He wouldn't want to be a were like miniature schnauzer.
yeah. So he'd want to be a variety of were-dog. A
Oh, wait,
Doberman variety of were-dog. Because a wolf is different than a dog.
Snoop Dogg already did that, though, didn't he? Dang it.
He's a were-dog. Yeah.
Were-dog, yeah. I don't know if I had to be a were-dog. What dog would I want to be? I wouldn't want to be like a were-Saint. Well, I don't know. Were-Saint Bernard would be cool because you'd be really big, but you'd have,
Yeah.
You'd be slobbery, though. I don't know. If I wanted to be a mean one, I think I'd be I don't know, like a were pit bull. That'd be kind of cool if you were a were pit bull.
Maybe it's like a were German Shepherd.
I always assumed that James
That's
Hagan
basically a werewolf. It's the
a
same.
were pit bull. Kind of looked like a little pit bull man.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe super muscular. It'd be like the Hulk with a dog.
Yeah. But with a dog face, and you could bite people's heads off. Well, by the way, we're gonna have another dog in our house for the next 2 weeks because tomorrow I go pick up Patton to come stay out here with us. Took Mavis down to meet him tonight, and he has an older brother who's also a Boston Terrier. He's a Boston Terrier. He's not a year old yet. He's not full grown.
What? You're getting a baby Boston Terrier?
He's about 6 months old or something, I think.
Nice.
But he's just visiting.
He's just visiting. Oh, somebody going out of town?
It's the guy who owns my local gun shop. It's their dog. It's
I know
the
that
people
one.
who-
But here's the deal. You're going to say that you left the door open. You're going to send that dog in a box down to here, and I'm going to have that dog.
Yeah, he's as cute as he could be. But today I took Mavis down to meet him. And Boston aren't big, and he's not even full grown. He's about half grown. But he's used to being able to push around his bigger brother, who's also a Boston Terrier, who's really old. So I took Mavis down to meet him today, and the first time he charged at her and bounced off, and she didn't even react. He then became kind of, wanted to play with her, but was afraid of pushing it too far. So he was really unsure of how to go about trying to play with her because, she's 70 pounds and he's about 12 pounds. So it was fun to watch him try to figure out how, hey, I'm not the bully anymore. What do I have to do here in this situation? Because you know how puppies have to try to figure out things real quick. But yeah, he'll be living with us for the next 2 weeks and a couple of days. So
Awesome. That's super cool.
he's a Boston.
I grew up.
Bulldog.
I grew up with Boston.
Did your parents have Bostons? Yeah, I like Bostons. Bostons are a cool puppy. I don't think I see anymore. I see Jim White donated and said for the canine soldiers. I always say for the puppy vets, and it's not because it's the puppy / vets fund. It's not the puppy vets, it's puppies and vets, not puppy vets. Although there are dogs that are veterans. There's dogs in military service.
I can hook you up with a couple that I follow on Instagram that are taking care of retired service dogs. Not all of them can go out to people, or they need some time before they can, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because a lot of times they come off police force. If they come off like serving in law enforcement or military, they're not like service animals who are trained to let you know the phone's ringing or help you across the street. They're trained to knock you down if the owner that they're attached to doesn't like you and tells them to. So they're not quite ready for prime time or for public use when they first come out of service. They have to calm down a bit first. Tim Pool will be on Joe Rogan podcast tomorrow. I never try to do stuff like that. People are always telling me, you try to get on this person's podcast or that person's podcast. I try to keep my opinions just on my podcast. That way no one's got to be associated with them. But when's the vet giveaway? That's at the middle of the month, every month. We were just asking.
Somebody keeps asking about the Sky CPX3. Look, the Sky CPX3, they finally just said, look, we can't make a good gun in 9mm. Let's just make it in 380. And that's the only way the gun's going to hold together long enough for somebody to actually shoot it. That's why you have the Sky CPX3. That's the only reason. They had to downgrade the caliber because that gun couldn't. It just was not a reliable gun.
What's this? Yankee should play Stolen Valor Bingo with Donut. Does that make any sense to anybody?
No.
I don't know what that
I'd have to know who Donut is first.
Yeah.
And then what Stolen Valor Bingo is.
I've never understood the whole Stolen Valor thing. I mean, I understand when people just some they'll go out and they'll shame these kids on the street. They're like, like this person's like 20 and you can tell they're emotionally disturbed or just autistic or not all there. And they're like, stolen valor, you're dressed like a soldier, stolen valor. I'm like, really? Is he really stealing any valor? He's not claiming. To me, stolen valor are these people who become politicians saying, I fought in this war and I'm blah, blah, blah. And it turns out they didn't. To me, that's stolen valor. But I don't like those stolen valor videos because I don't like when I go out and pick on like kids that are obviously not all there.
Well,
got some sort.
I don't know. I've seen only a few that are like efforts, I guess, and that's usually when someone is like putting it as a credential or maybe getting jobs based on it.
That's stolen valor.
Or like in passing, just some blowhard asshole will be like wearing somebody's unit patch, and there's these guys out there their channels, their focus is calling people out, either they're brand specific or unit specific sometimes. So somebody who's like, just let's say being a dick at Disneyland, got a bunch of unit patches on, somebody will take a picture or two of them, send it into one of these channels, and then they'll vet it and figure out real quick if they're legit. And then they'll usually tell them, the ones I've seen that are calm about it will say, look, it's not cool that you're doing this. Like, turn in all that shit and we'll call it even and never say it again. And if they don't, then all hell breaks loose and they use the power of the internet to make sure these people can't keep going around. Sometimes it's not just like, hey, let me get a free coffee because of Vets Day or whatever. It's, again, people are walking around acting like they're.
I've seen people in airport. I've seen people in airport dressed like they're officers.
Yeah.
That I'm like, you're not in the service. You're just trying to get attention and trying to get better seating on a plane.
And they're doing it in such a cartoonish or buffoonish way that it's just derogatory. Is that the word? I don't know.
Yeah. The way I usually see them is I'm like, dude, you're like in like almost class A's, except you're just not wearing a jacket. Yeah. It's just like, who would travel like that in the military?
But if you're talking like a kid wearing their dad's jacket, then and people come up and berating them, like they got to get a life. Like,
and I see a lot of that. Unfortunately, I watched this. People suggested this one channel I follow, the guy who it's like a stolen valor channel is what it is, or something like that. And I would be like, dude, that kid is just wearing camo with a battle patch with a patch on it, and he's obviously like 19, and he's probably not all there, and he's not doing anything except walking down the street. Just leave him the fuck alone. Yeah, just leave him the fuck alone. No one thinks he did anything special. I mean, hell, I was in the military and I didn't steal any valor because I never did anything. I'm not sure what the word would be. Valorious? What's the word?
Valorous?
Valorous, I guess.
Full of valor?
I never did anything valorous in the service. In fact, I would say most people get out of the service and never do anything particularly valorous. We know that's probably not a word, but that's one we're using right now.
We've just made that a word.
Yeah, it's the people who claim to like, I stormed this hill with this company and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you didn't. You were working in a motor pool and, so in Indiana at the time. That's stolen valor. Just putting on you. My brother used to wear when I came back from AIT, I accidentally left my coat there, one of the coats to my BDUs, and it had all my patches and stuff on it. And my little brother wore it all the time. He was like 16, not even that time. I think he's like 14. That's not stolen valor. He's just wearing his brother's coat because he liked my coat. He wasn't claiming to have been in any service or anything. Wasn't trying to get anything for free.
Well, one of the things you kind of talked about at the beginning, somebody said something about service, and I think, what the hell was it? It was some Marine one time made a remark, and it was I'm probably paraphrasing it wrong, but it was something to the effect of some people, sign their name or whatever, or go do stuff, but everybody's provides service in some way or another. Like everybody's either one or two people removed from somebody in the service. There's only 3% that sign their name, go do stuff, but there's the husbands and wives and kids that they leave behind. Obviously, the fathers and mothers they leave behind. And all the brothers and sisters who are all affected and are all a part and are all just as involved, just as like anything to every level. So we're all.
It's just like the lady in my hometown who provided free daycare. She was like, small town daycare, out of her house kind of a daycare thing. And there weren't a lot of families in our town that would, the husband would be off on active duty deployment and the mother would have to still work to make ends meet. She would watch those people's kids for basically just whatever it took to feed them. She didn't charge anything to watch them. To me, that's just as valorous or whatever, like the word we were using, as going and serving. She's still going out of her way to help. So people who that are like, mental health professionals who don't make a lot of money. I find that just as valorous going into that field. If you go into it thinking you just want to help people, that's awesome. People who go into law enforcement for the right reason, that's awesome. People who do a lot of things that help other people, knowing that they're never going to get rich doing it, especially if they've got other options. Like I know a lot of people that are nurses that had other options. They could have gone on to do other things. I know one particularly in town who she actually dated David Bowie's lead guitarist for many years. She came from money. She had every opportunity to do everything in the world she wanted to do. She was a professional dancer, but she still went to nursing school, got her nursing license because she wanted to work. Her thing was, I want to work with Shriners and I want to work with children. And that's what she did. She got her degree. She still does that to today. And she could have done anything she wanted. Her dad would have paid for her to go to any school she wanted to go to. Her dad was an author, made a lot of money, but she chose to be a nurse. And I'm like, to me, that's not stolen valor. That's just valor, period. So it just depends on what you're doing. It doesn't have to be military service. So I don't understand why people get so upset just because someone wears a uniform or anything, because it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I don't know about other people, but it doesn't bother me at all, unless they're trying to somehow better their lives by claiming something falsely. And it really bothers me when these people in public, it's like one of the things that bothers me more than anything is these rich upper white class kids or politically connected upper white class kids who will join the Air Force. They'll serve like one tour of duty overseas in the most cake fucking job ever. Like they fly a refueler or something for like 2 missions. And then they come back over and say, he's a combat veteran from Afghanistan. Elect him as your congressman. And the only reason that they put him in the Air Force and sent him over for the 2 missions was so they could say that when he got back. He wasn't ever actually out there a grunt work, ever in any danger, doing anything for his country. He was doing that to build his political career.
All right.
And that's when I really get into it.
I don't want to disagree, but there's a ton of people. There's people that do all kinds of boring stuff like sewing and like paperwork. So say like accountant, because if you're talking about flying around in a 747 full of gasoline, high pressure pumping it into fighter planes full of munitions, going at speed above either the ocean or terrain, like that's not nothing. That's pretty hardcore, even if you're sitting in a 747. So let's say the accountants and the people that are like maybe getting paper cuts or something.
Yeah, but I still don't think but when it's done solely with no risk to yourself, very little risk to yourself to further a political career, I think that's stolen valor. I'm sorry. I know too many of them that they fall into that exact category every time. Air Force pilot, Air Force pilot, Air Force pilot. They all get sent over for very short deployments, do like 1 or 2 missions, and then come back because they're politically connected. There's one guy he's on CNN all the time, and I looked up his record, and it was basically prep school boy, joined the Air Force, got his commission almost immediately because he did all this crap beforehand that they paid for, went over for a tiny little bit, came back immediately, became a politician. Because that's what they were grooming him from the beginning, because his father was a politician, and etc. So that is stolen valor to me, because you're just using the military to get yourself into position of power. You're not actually signing on the dotted line, not knowing what you're going to do and what's going to happen to you. You're told right up front. It's not like how we get told, there's going to be swimming pools and you're going to have your private room and all this other stuff. That never happens. They get what they're told, So I have a problem with that.
Now what if that was your intention, but then you got shot down and spent several years in a camp?
Well, they don't send them anywhere where they're in any danger of getting shot down.
Okay.
They'll be doing refueling.
Making a John McCain reference there. So,
yeah. Well, John McCain wasn't that. He wasn't someone who just joined to be to be a politician, but then it worked out in his favor after he went through all the shit he went through. But who would want to go through what he went through to be a politician?
Oh shit, right.
I would definitely go over, if I wanted to fly planes, go over and fly a plane around in safe space for a couple of days and then come back and become a politician. I'd do that in a minute. The Falling Hammer says swag pack from Gear Websites came. Thanks. Galmar said donated $2 but didn't say anything. He's an old man donated but didn't say anything. The Red-Headed Rambler Take 2 says, I say this on Veterans Day. Never served. Then serve and honor vets by doing your part to make this country worth dying for. Oh, he says that too, people.
I think it's like never served, ? Then serve and honor vets by making the country worth dying for. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I agree with. I agree with that 100%. Not everyone. I'm not letting my kids join the military. So
No, I
I
don't want-
couldn't stop them.
Not
if
what
they
it's
wanted
become
to.
today.
Yeah, I
I
couldn't stop, but I would highly discourage them.
my son's even told me before. He's like, he when he was a little bit younger, he said, he's like, you know what? I just don't know what I want to do right now. And he does now, but this was a couple of years ago. He's like, look, if you tell me to join the military, I'll join the military. And I was like, no. If this was in the 1990s, maybe, but not what they're being used for today. No, I wouldn't. I don't want you to join the military.
Yeah, you're not.
I do have to call somebody out in your chat though, real quick. Roberto Lopez was recommending to someone else that they buy a Springfield XDS, and I just don't think that type of behavior can be allowed
Hopefully
on these chats.
Hopefully somebody banned him immediately. Our moderators aren't laying down on the job. Sure, that was taken care of. Let's see here. I think we're actually. How late did we start? We only started like a minute or two late. Didn't we?
It was about 5 minutes.
Here's a question from Matt. I want to see what that says. Matt, you saw my new Rock Island 1911 on your chat last night, which I assume it was that kind of baby shit green one.
Yes. The one with the nice grips.
The G10 grips are not very comfortable, so I am going to replace them with Magpul grips. The gun finish is said to be brown, but looks more like OD green. Do you think black grips or FDE grips would look better?
Well, because it had black accents on it, and it looked very OD green. And it had like black accents, like the safety and the trigger and that kind of stuff was black. So you can make a case that black would work well with that, from what I remember of the picture. I don't think FDE would look particularly good with that myself.
I say black.
I say black. This gun here. Let me see if I can turn my camera on. This gun has got the OD on. I mean, got the brown, what do you call it, grips on here. But I like the colored grips on these color guns and stuff. But this gun came with a black grip, and it looked great with a black grip. I think the color gun he's showing right there, because it has the black controls and the black grip safety, black controls, black hammer. He has that on his gun also.
Yeah.
I think black grips would look great on it, because the black on this looked good on this.
What about the other side of that, where he's like the grips are uncomfortable? Now, most of the time, G10 gives you some texture, some right? And I've seen some that are really cool, like super grippy, like you'd almost need gloves. And that's how I wanted 1911. So would you rather have a smooth 1911?
I've done both. I mean, there's been some 1911s that I've had that had nice, smooth, like the high gloss grips on them, and it just depends. I mean, it depends on what you're going to use the gun for too. Is this an everyday carry gun? Then I'm willing to go with much more tacky or grippy, or maybe even a little bit uncomfortable grips, because this could be used in a bad situation. Whereas if it's my 1911 that's nice and pretty and I'm going to take it to the range, then I'm not as worried about that, and maybe I am more worried about comfort shooting a bunch of rounds through it at the range and what it looks like and that kind of stuff. So I guess it depends on what he's going to use it for, but I mean, either way, I mean, it's
these are elk options. These are elk grips here, and they're smooth, and I love these on these. But
that's different.
Yeah, and this is not for everyday carry. For one, that's why I like the smooth. But two, also, what matters to me on a gun, I don't care if it has smooth grips, if it has both a very good front and back serration.
Yeah,
that does make a big difference.
But if it doesn't have the front serrations or back serrations, then it's got to have a grippy grip. But if it's got these that are really good, I find that's enough to hold.
I'm trying to remember, does the Rock Island, I know it has the back serrations. I don't remember if it has the front.
Checkering.
Yeah, checkering. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Jimping. It's the jimping. No.
Checkering. Yeah, you're right. Because I get some 1911s that don't even have back checkering. They have a flat back strap, or the back strap just has like those little lines in it.
Down lines. Yeah, those I don't like so much.
I don't like those. I had some the other day that the lines went sideways. They were just lines, but they went sideways, and it just allowed the gun to slip all the way around in my palm.
It almost like works against you then. It's like, it makes it easier to flip around.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I don't like that at all. So I always change out to a good grippy back strap. I usually put a magwell on anyway, so I make sure I get a good checkered back strap when I do that. Like the chain link ones and stuff, they look awesome, but they don't give you any real traction in your glove or your hand. But
I don't even know why I'm asking, because I think I already know. Neither one of you like the stuff that wraps around in front.
So. Oh, like those Pachmeyer grips? No, I don't like those.
No, I don't like those.
Yeah, no, they're no.
I don't know if it's just because it just offends my sensibilities to put something on a 1911 that, you know, like that, or it's just that I don't like them, but I don't like them.
I don't like them. I don't like the way they look. They change the look of the gun. They make the grip bigger, and part of the appeal of a 1911 is a nice, not just a grip angle, but just a nice thin grip that's easy to get a hold of.
Now that's something that people don't, when they're hating on Glocks, they'll always complain about grip angle, which is stupid, but that thinner grip is something that nobody pegs on, but I think you just hit it right there. That's something that makes a big difference with the double stacks.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does.
It's like when they started making the Gen 4s, and people were like, I don't know if I like the Gen 4. And I'm like, I do, solely because the grip is smaller and it fits my hand better. Because the grip on the Gen 3s, you know, it was smaller by default, and then you could put bigger back straps on it if you wanted to. The perfect default smaller grip made the gun so much more comfortable to me. It was like a game changer as far as Glocks were concerned for me. Let's see here. Heathen Old Man says, stupid iPad, do you use plus P45 ACP Underwood ammo? I do. I use the plus P45 extreme defenders.
Does a gun have to be 45 plus P or something, or can you just, is it just called plus P?
It's called plus P. If it's a steel gun, it can handle it. If it's a
I
metal,
don't think I've ever seen a gun sold as a 45 plus P.
no. If they can, I've spoke to different manufacturers about this. And they're like, if it's a metal gun, it can handle it. And there's not a whole lot of polymer 1911, so not to worry about it.
Well, I mean, I've shot 45 ACP plus P out of my Glock 21.
Yeah,
and it's been fine.
Now
Okay.
It's like with the old Smith & Wesson revolvers that are 38 special. People are like, oh my God, can I shoot 38 special plus P in it? Yes, it's a solid steel gun. Go ahead. You can shoot plus P in it. They weren't rated for plus P back then because there was no such consideration, but you can still do it. Ghost Shadow says RIA 1911, $379 at North 40. That's inexpensive. Yeah. Roy Munson says, should werewolves be allowed to serve in the military? You know, that's actually a good question.
Have you never seen Dog Soldiers? Come on.
Yeah, but they killed all the soldiers. The dog soldiers did.
Yeah, but they were efficient.
Yeah,
That's
but
what we need in the military. You send those fuckers into Syria.
you have to have some way to make sure that they don't turn on.
Well, of course, yeah. You train them right. You get some precautions in place, but absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's too predictable to only work at a full moon. So if you had some kind of a vest that could provide moonlight and make them turn on command, then yes.
I think that's a myth that they only.
Yeah, that's a myth. That's not real. They can turn when they want.
I think that's just something that the werewolf lobby put out there to make people not carry their silver bullets unless there was a full moon.
Yeah. Agreed.
Practical Bacon says,
by the way, great name.
Yeah, Practical Bacon. Got some gift cards for Xmas birthday. Do I get a second carry option or an AK or SKS? Already have an AR-15 and AR-10, so I do already have battle rifle options.
Oh, so much good stuff there. I say SKS. It's
No, he already has one. Oh no,
no.
Okay.
No, but he's Look, AKs are still being manufactured. Carry options, there's millions of them and will be for a very long time. SKSs are slowly, but they are slowly drying up. You know, it's a fantastic rifle, and I say get one while you can, because the prices just keep going up as they become, you know, harder and harder to find because people are buying them and holding on to them. You know, so that's what I say you go for.
I don't know. I guess I like AKs, but I guess your point about the SKS not being available forever is a point. But I'm kind of like, I don't own one, and will I ever be sad if it comes a day when I can't buy one? I doubt it. It comes down to, do you think you might need a second carry option more? Are there more circumstances where maybe your first carry gun is not something you can carry easily and you have to leave it at home sometimes? In that case, I'd say, well, then, yeah, get a gun that fills in for those times you can't carry your everyday carry, because I think that'd be way more useful to you than a battle rifle for a battle.
Now you're just telling them to do the responsible thing. That's no fun.
No, that's practical.
Practical. Yeah. I'm the practical person. Now, you know me, everything I buy is practical. I have to
of course.
I have to have a good reason.
So at first I read it, I thought he had all those rifles. So now I understand. So I'm agreeing with Yankee. If you're saying, if you would have said another carry option, but if you're saying second, that makes me think you've only got one carry option. Don't worry about any more rifles. Those are recreational. You got shit hits the fan covered. So I don't agree with Matt on the SKS. necessarily, only because here's my thing. I was going to add to what you're saying there. Everything you said is correct, but I've been noticing this lately. Stuff will just appear, like stuff that was like expensive. I only found it once every 10 years kind of stuff. Boom, there's 400 of them coming into the country. Guns out of nowhere are coming in. Crinks, right? When I first started getting into AKs and building, you'd have to SBR it and you'd have to go find or create parts. Now there's AK pistols that are basically crinks. So, with all the front end parts that are real crank had on it, or all the other variations of the crank.
People aren't piecing together SKSs.
No, I agree. I'm just using that as an example, though, that what happens if something happens, flip, and all of a sudden China, or let's say some country, South Korea, figures out, oh, America, if we build SKSs out of nowhere, then we can import them, because the only thing stopping SKSs is that they all come from countries that we can't get them from. There's no law that says we can't get gun. So if Mexico started making SKSs and sending them up here and they were $200, that's where I don't want to send somebody out buying a $300 SKS, because you keep acting like these fantasy SKSs exist where like they've never been shot. Every SKS I owned and sold had thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds through them.
Oh, I never said that. I've never owned it. Actually, no, I did own one Yugo SKS that was, if it had ever been used, I would have been surprised. But other than that, no, every SKS I've owned is.
And that's why I'm saying what's available now. I can't imagine you're finding too many like brand new SKSs. You're getting SKSs that somebody else has put thousands of rounds through them. They were designed to be used for a while and thrown away, because then they would.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
You know.
The problem is we live, because we are here in the United States where we can't just import these things like we used to be able to. The prices have gone up tremendously. So I mean, when we went to Tulsa last year, the SKSs were selling for, $450, $550, and that's insane. So if you run across a good deal on an SKS, my advice is jump on it. If you can find one for $350 or less, right now that's a really good deal. Now, if we were in Canada, that's completely different, because they're still importing those damn things, right? We're not. So I think it's a matter of perspective.
I think Canada's about to lose all guns.
Probably.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Jeopardy right now. But yeah, up until now, yeah.
Why is Canada about to lose all guns? Did I miss something?
Somebody did something somewhere with a handgun, and now their reaction is to get rid of the semi-autos and handgun, which is like all under the same like level with them. They have like levels. They don't have definitions of guns. They have like levels of ownership. So they're getting rid of like basically all recreationals or something.
I want to point out that Dave G made a good point about one danger of having werewolves in the military. If you're serving with werewolves and you actually have to throw a grenade, they are very likely to go get it and bring it back to you.
This is true.
Good
Something
point.
to think about.
Yeah.
So
You got to get that training in, man. You got to get that training in.
Jory Schultz had the audacity to say that they hated dog soldiers, that the movie gave them nightmares when they were young.
Well, that doesn't mean you hate it. That means it was effective.
That means it worked. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. I love dog soldiers. I've probably seen that movie 7 or 8 times.
Oh, that is my absolute favorite werewolf movie.
I think it is. I think it kind of at one point in time, it finally kind of crawled ahead of
Howling?
The first Howling.
Yeah, Howling's awesome. Yeah, but I love Dog Soldiers better. Just a little bit. It's just a little bit better.
And American Werewolf in London is good, but I like my werewolves to look more traditional werewolf, not like werewolfy. And sometimes that wolf, when he would get down on all fours, just looked a little too wolfy for me.
Yeah,
still a good movie.
I'm going to say something controversial. I actually like American Werewolf in Paris better than American Werewolf in London.
I don't think I've ever seen American Werewolf in Paris. I might have to see that.
What is Paris? What is that one?
It's the second one. It was the sequel that came out, late 90s? It was like 99, 98, 99, something like that. Yeah. It's controversial because everybody loves the first one. It's a cult classic. The second one was actually pretty damn good.
I'm actually alone right now, like I said, because I didn't go back to see my father-in-law because he doesn't remember me anymore. So it's just me and the kids here now. And I've got free time galore at night. So I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? So maybe I'll just watch Dog Soldiers. I guess I could go out and do something, but that would require me to leave my house, and I'm not interested in leaving my house. So,
well, who wants to do that if you don't have to? Shit.
Have you seen Train to Busan?
Yes, that was an awesome movie.
Oh, best Zam zombie movie ever.
And I've started watching this show on Netflix called Kingdom.
I've watched the first 10 minutes of the first episode, and I need to finish watching it because I've heard it's awesome.
Now it's going to turn into a nerd chat.
It starts off really slow, but it gets pretty good. So I'm enjoying it. But it's someone asked me if it's still snowy here in email just now. I'm trying to get a picture up. Let's see here. I can't find one on my desktop, but I'll show you. Yeah, this is my backyard this morning still, as you can see. Oh, it's awful blurry.
That one you posted a while back where the clouds were below you was pretty cool.
That's the back right now. It's still very snowy up here. So we haven't lost any of our snow. We still got 8 inches on the ground. The only problem is it's been on the ground for so long and it's so cold that it's now less like snow and more like you've got 8 inches of really sticky talcum powder on the ground. So it's just going everywhere because it's blowing on the roads and making the roads bad again, even though it hasn't snowed again. And we're supposed to get more snow Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So going to be really snowy up here soon. Kanlala says something in Super Chat here. It says, how are you? I talked to my senator's legislative director about gun laws. The senator is a Democrat. I explained to him how AR-15 are less deadly than the fists and knuckles. I told him criminals don't follow laws, to which he agreed, but he was like, we have to do something for public safety. I made the point that killing someone is already against the law, and I asked him, would Congress ban shotguns and revolvers if people only had those? He pointed to Heller versus DC and how SCOTUS has agreed that the AR-15s can be banned. I told him that SCOTUS hasn't ruled on that yet. I told him how Heller versus DC said weapons in common use are protected. He said not necessarily because they can be million of AR-15s, but some people might own multiple. And I said they are not in common use, that they are in common use. He said no, that they would not and are only used in shootings. See, that's ridiculous. That's just ignorance.
That was a face-to-face with the representative.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I've had similar. They are so ingrained in lying and bullshitting that they will just lie to your face. And when you counter them with facts, they don't even react to the facts. They'll just repeat what they said, smile, and keep moving because they're just so ingrained to give this line. Don't worry about any rebuttals, smile and move along. You know, that's just their game plan.
Well, that's the only way to deal with it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's frustrating. That's super frustrating because they're going to suggest then that it's not in common use because we all own 10 apiece or 20 apiece, and that means we're just hoarders. And there's a lot of guns, but it's because we can't own enough of them.
Yeah, it's like they'll use that same thing to say, okay, maybe it's not 30% of the population or 40% of the population that owns a gun. Maybe it's just 5%, and they just own 100 guns each.
Yep.
Yeah,
and they're of course all criminals.
Yeah. So while we're only disenfranchising 5% of the people if we get rid of guns, let's see here. I think we're over time by about 18 minutes or at least 15 minutes here now. Let me make sure we didn't have any more super chats I missed, and then we will get out of here.
Con Lala was telling you to check his email, but you did before he sent it.
Oops, I got that internal server error, that monkeys with hammers thing, which I always like the monkeys with hammers things.
At least they're being creative with it, right?
Cowboy Swami says, how do you guys like the Taurus TH9? Thanks.
It's an 800 series gun. I've talked about this many times, and it's a great gun. I like it. You can pick them up really cheap. They're like $250, and it's a good, reliable, very, very SIG-like, hammer-fired, double action, single action, decocker type gun. And the new ones are just as good as the 800 series, which is what I own. I own the old 800 series. So they're good guns. If you want just a good, solid gun that's going to work and you don't want to pay a lot of money, there you go.
Yeah, a lot of people think you're a snob. You don't like cheap guns. I love cheap guns. I love the fact that someone who makes maybe minimum wage and only has a couple $100 to spend can walk in and find a decent Taurus for $250. I like the fact that people who, maybe they're a single mother and don't have a lot of extra money can walk in and find an inexpensive little something that even if it's only going to fire 100 rounds in its lifetime, if it's enough to help her protect herself, great. So I don't dislike cheap guns. I am so glad they are there for people who can't walk in and spend $500 to $1,000 on a gun when they need one.
So I don't like it. I don't even know how much it costs. If I'm looking at the right gun, I had a Ruger P89, and back in the olden days when I was a kid, I liked the idea of ambidextrous controls. but I do not like ambidextrous controls anymore, and I certainly don't like ambidextrous slide releases or slide locks, and I don't like ambidextrous, always ambidextrous magazine releases. So for me, I don't like the potential failure points that all that, and I don't like single action, double action. So I don't care what it costs. This is not the gun I'm interested in.
Con Lala also said that we needed Coast to take up a lawsuit to a so-called weapon ban case. I wouldn't hold my breath on that, like I said, although they are doing a hearing on another gun ban here soon. It's on the way that New Jersey does their carry permits and how they do not issue carry permits to anybody except for politicians, famous people, and their friends. So hopefully they'll take it up, but just hearing it is no guarantee they're going to take it up. In fact, it's been heard before and not taken up.
400 people watching right now. This is the end of the show, like where we're already wrapping it up. So I'm sure people have left. Imagine if 400 written letters went out. You know, we might get discouraged when somebody has a bad interaction with a representative. Maybe they were busy. Maybe who knows what representatives. I mean, we give them a lot of shit, but imagine all the funerals and all the agony and all the stuff that they're aware of, the injured and sick people that get mistreated, that they have to be there to fight for. And we're asking them for stuff that other side is bringing victims and putting them in front of them. So as much grief as we give them, and some of them definitely deserve it, you know, we're looking at that as like a potential failure because that interaction was bad. But there's lots of potential here. We have 400 people watching this chat. It would be a different situation. It would be a different reaction to stuff if there was 400 emails going out. I'm not calling for an email campaign or nothing. I'm just saying, trying to put it in perspective that what we're all bitching shaking our fans at the sky. It's a valid response to the situation, but we can affect the situation, and we can watch it from the internet really, really, really good. We can watch every little aspect of it, but we also have lots and lots of tools, lots and lots of power, and lots of ability to affect change out there. So don't feel like you're watching this. Understand that you're part of this. Participate.
Yeah, it's like I always say, people are always like, why aren't there more gun rallies? And I'm like, because it's hard to get people to come to them. And the only thing worse than not throwing one is throwing one and no one show up.
Oh, please don't even tell me about there's no gun rallies. There's the 50 women from around the country go to the U.S. to Washington, D.C. as a representative from each state to talk to the representatives. They give them time for that. There's freedom marches. There's a freedom summit this month in Florida, or a freedom thing this weekend in Florida. So
I don't think they were saying things don't exist. They're just like, why don't we do more of them like at Capitol?
Well, that's what I mean. We can get frustrated, but let's get aware of them. I've been putting together the calendar and trying to be more aware and trying to have stuff out there, right? I got the calendar projects and stuff where I'm trying to put those things on the calendar, and it's actually difficult thanks to your posse and my Patreons that give me the time to actually dig in. As I dig in, I continually find new ones. So I know it's frustrating and we say there's not enough of them, but guess what? There are a lot of them. We just don't know about them all because they all have maybe dozens of people that are part of it, you know, reaching out, but we're not all perfect at that yet. So again, we got 400 people in here. If everyone took a moment and decided to go find an event and put it in the comments of this video when it's over, we already talked about Yankees videos will get sometimes tens of thousands of people that aren't his direct supporters, tens of thousands of people that find value in his content and share it and bring people over. If the 400 people that are watching now, and now it went to 396 as I started challenging you, if those 300 people, 400 people that are watching right now all went out and grabbed a two-way organization and dropped a link in the YouTube video when this is over, imagine what that would do. So we have power to affect stuff. Let's just think outside the box and do it.
And I'll make a point to what you said there. There's a part in your analytics where you can look at people who watch your videos. Like I say, I had a video the other day that it's from like a week ago and it hit 110,000 views this week. So I was like, well, I wonder where people are watching it from. And, you know, like I can go and see all my major market is America, and then Canada, then Australia, then the Philippines. But so it's weird that the Philippines is in the top 5, but it is. But there's also a thing you can look at, like this number of the people who watch your videos regularly are actually subscribed to your channel. And this number of people who watch your videos are not subscribed to your channel. The number of people who watch my videos that are actually subscribed to my channel seldomly climbs above 40%. The people not subscribed to my channel that watches my videos are always in the high 50%. So it's more than half the people who watch my content are not subscribed to my channel. And that's, like I say, that's encouraging to me. That's my goal. I know some of those people are just not subscribed because they hate me, but a lot of it are people who just come across the video somewhere and don't know who I am for dick, who just like what I said or liked the topic I was talking about. So yeah, we got to reach people. And like I was saying about the
well, hold on, let me throw one thing out there. You know that that's valid too, because number one, if Yankee was taking the money and let's say the Patreon money that he gets and then pays for those views, I'm sure there's people out there that think about that. It would be a dead end. Like it doesn't work like ratio wise, but to get consistent numbers like you've got, and then growth when there's not an artificial induced stimulus like a political thing or some other, you know, shooting pumpkins on the news or whatever. When you're actually growing or staying consistent with size, that's because the people find value in what they're saying and come back to it. So even if they're not subscribers, they know to be on the lookout, and when they see something that gets shared, they go to watch it and stuff like that. So there's the fourth element to it, the duration and the time element that gets overlooked when we start talking about numbers. That again, what you're creating is being shared by people, and the fact that you're able to still be doing it is a testament to that. Like if you were just interesting to 2,000 people and they watched your videos 15 times, you know what I mean, that would be a different, it would dwindle.
Oh yeah, it would eventually, because those 2,000 people would eventually start getting tired of you. So you have to constantly be bringing in an audience and a repeat audience and people who aren't really involved enough to be subscribed, but still are on the lookout and aware and want to be kept up. So it's a lot of factors to look at, but it's not just these closed little groups. Like I say, the fact that it's sometimes up to 60% of the people who will watch a video that aren't subscribers of mine, that's a positive thing to me. But it also, the thing about the rallies, it's so hard to organize these rallies nowadays. So the people who are doing it, help them, because it's hard, because you go into it knowing, how am I going to get the word out? How am I going to get people to show up? Because the worse than not having one, like I said a minute ago, is having one and no one show up, because that just tickles the anti-gun politicians. Look, they had a rally and only 28 people showed up. They're trying to pretend like they're a viable part of the population and only 20 people showed up. So that makes us look bad. If I could, you know, like I'll post a video like at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 6 or 7 o'clock that night, it'll have just 10,000 views, 12,000, maybe 15,000 views. If half those people showed up at a Capitol somewhere,
holy shit!
Yeah,
can you imagine?
Yeah, that would be on the news that night, because they couldn't ignore that. They'd be like, "Fuck, 15 or 10,000 people showed up at the Capitol tonight." Yeah.
Think about that, and that's one YouTuber, and you know, you're moderately successful. You're not like the biggest YouTuber or nothing, so that's not even, and that's just YouTube. I mean, there's giant Facebookers, there's giant Instagrammers, right? So there's a lot of potential out there.
Yeah. So we are way over now. Now we're about a half an hour over. But so let me just make sure we didn't miss any super chats or anything, and then we
really I'm glad we stick around for you, because we got you to 7 thumbs down in that last couple of minutes there. So
people, one thing I've noticed is the people who like to be called out the least are the people who do the least. They do not like it when you start to call anybody out for not doing anything. It's like if you say something about, I'm so sick of this person who's more than willing to take money from the gun community, but is never willing to stand up and fucking do anything for the people that they're taking money from. The people who are the first people to come and defend them are people that are the ones that are basically defending their own inactivity by defending the other person. And it's just like, we kind of see through your reasoning for defending them. And I'm not someone who says everyone should have to be politically active and everyone should have to do something. But if you're out there making a fortune off the fucking gun community and then laughing at us as we lose our rights and refusing to be involved, I think people have a right to know that and should say fuck you and never watch another one of your videos. Dildo Gaggins, which I know Matt loves that name too.
Love that fucking name.
Donated and said nothing. Eric Moreland said Springfield Springfield Range Officer Elite or Colt Combat Commander 9mm or 45. Colt Combat Commander 45. Yes, not just because I'm not a fan of Springfield. If you're buying them used, I think the Springfield is a great gun, but the Colt Commander is going to hold its value better, and it should be
I didn't
45.
like the Range Officer. So I mean, there's other Springfields that are okay, but like you say, but the Colt is a way better gun.
Yeah, the Range Officer to me, it should have just been called the 1911 FUD.
Yeah, it's got all the boring stuff. I think I don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than a plain Jane one, I guess. But the features it had, I didn't want, or it wasn't.
Yeah, it was like to me they should have said we've designed the perfect 1911 for the man over 60. So,
well, like for somebody that was buying guns in 1960.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I wasn't buying guns in 1960. I bought my first gun. I got my first gun that belonged to me in 1973. I think it was. Yeah. So that's when I got my first rifle. That was actually here's your, and you know what it's like to be a little kid and here's your first rifle. This is yours, and it's a big responsibility. Of course, it was locked up when I wasn't out using it, but at like 10 years old, I was quite regularly walking around the woods behind our house with my 22 strapped on my back by myself. So it wasn't like it was something I was never allowed to use unless I was under direct supervision. But,
and I'm 100% sure I would have been good if they wouldn't have been able to be like, you're not going to go shooting this weekend because you're being bad, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've been owning guns. I love when people get on our chats like, you probably don't know nothing about guns. Like, yeah, I've only been around them since 1973. I've been using them personally that belong to me. So someone says my internet was surprisingly good tonight. Well, that's good. It's nice to know it held out well tonight.
Yeah, it's been really clear.
Good. Well, thanks to everyone for coming tonight. If you're someone, like I say, who wants to be involved. If you can't be involved, help those that are. Go over support gun websites on Patreon, support Never Enough Ammo. Go over to gear websites and buy something. You don't have to need it. I buy little things I don't need all the time. Sometimes it just makes me feel better to buy something. You know, it's retail therapy. Go over and buy something that, you know, goes to a good cause. So go over to gear websites and buy something to help support the cause. Keep watching. Keep being Patreon supporters. But more importantly, like I'm saying here, if you can personally be involved, be involved. Helping other people is the second best way to be involved. Actually helping them and being there yourself would be the best way to be involved. So just keep in mind that this is not something that's just a passing thing. This is very important. We're not fighting for, you know, this is not fighting for things like free healthcare, fighting for things like that are programs that whether you can believe in or not. This is fighting for our fundamental rights as free people, defending the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and so on. So it's not a game, and it's not, like I said, it's not just well, we're okay either way it goes. It's very important. So help those that are trying to make a difference, and then if you can, try to make a difference yourself also. And we thank the people that do that. And I know I said do. So like I said, keep it up. I think everybody out there is doing pretty good, but then I think there are a lot of people that could do more, myself included. And I'm going to try to start doing more here in the near future. My kids don't need me as much. Dale Rickety's got nothing still. My kids don't need me as much now. So I'm going to start trying to do more traveling, trying to confront more anti-gun people publicly, personally, not confront them in a confrontational way, but just have conversations with them on camera. You know, and people that are willing to change their minds may, and those that aren't, we'll see that they're not willing to change their minds. But I know I can do more, and I'm going to try to, and I challenge everybody out there to do more also. So and at G-Webs, I can't really ask him to do much more. He already drives around the country living in a van to try to promote the Second Amendment. So I don't know what more I could ask you to do.
I got plenty more. I got all kinds of ideas.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a good year. Thanks, everybody, for help to get to SHOT. It was very productive. It was an upbeat show. And really looking forward to 19. Obviously, it's an important year because next year we got the elections and stuff. But I think we got a lot of potential. We're really staged. We got more people than ever getting online for the first time, bringing their audiences and their reach that are up until now not really used to the online. So we're able to bring resources that we've all mastered to them. And I'm really looking forward. We've got a lot of people that are interested in working together. And yeah, thanks. It's going to be an interesting.
The gear websites. Can one of you throw the gear websites logo in the chat, or not logo, link in the chat? Because I don't know where it is.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I just click a button at the top of my thing up here. So, but like I was saying, thanks to everyone that does do the things they do, and always remember, if you can do a little bit more, do a little bit more, because if we're going to lose anything, this is when we're going to lose some stuff here. Because, like I say, I think people are too complacent, and I don't think they fear they need to work when we do need to work right now. I don't think the people that are serving us are as pro-gun as they say they are, and I think that's even more dangerous. Because like when it was Obama, people paid attention. When it's Trump, people ain't paying so much attention. So I'm like, start paying attention. And once again, thanks for everything you all do. We'll keep doing what we do. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. I'll see you all again here on Sunday, which we will announce the next beneficiary of the TYMP Pistol Project. Rogelio Garcia says, what Beretta replacement magazine spring do you recommend? How long can I leave them loaded? You can leave them loaded as long as you want. Just leaving a gun loaded doesn't really substantially weaken the springs. Loading them and unloading them weakens the springs. That's just how springs work. As far as the magazine spring itself, I just get one from Beretta. That way, you know you're doing what you want. Whoever makes your gear, makes your mag, just get a spring from them. But
I was thinking about that the other day. I bet you all three of us have magazines that we loaded back in the day when we started doing projects and stuff. I know Matt does.
Oh,
and
God.
those magazines might be loaded longer than people have been alive that are now watching our stuff.
That's true.
Think about that.
oh yeah, I've got like these magazines sitting over there with like, you know, gold dots in them. I haven't bought gold dots probably in 10 years. This magazine's been loaded for a long time.
I've got magazines that have been loaded much longer than I've been on YouTube. So
Y2K?
Yeah.
not quite that long. No.
I got Y2K mags. I was thinking about taking them apart.
You mean they didn't fail on January 1st, 2000?
I'm just saying I had them ready for since then. They've just been sitting in storage since.
Okay. See, I was afraid mine would break down. I didn't know how Y2K worked actually. So thanks to everyone, like I said, for everything you do. Thanks for coming. Keep on doing it. Do more if you can. And we'll see you all here again in 2 more weeks. I'll see you all again Thursday. So until then, bye-bye. Oh, wait, I got to do music because this is music night. And I unplugged my phone already. Why did I unplug my phone? I know this. Yeah, we do music. I don't know why I unplugged my phone. There we go. There it is. So good night, everybody. We'll see you again later.
I am a grown